no. I'm very sorry. I started all of that without having my mic on. So basically, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about some of the news around the NFL, specifically Deebo Samuel's news about not wanting to play with the 49ers ever again and requesting a trade. AJ Brown, of course, fairly similar, but not requesting a trade as of just yet. AJ Brown is wanting out of the Tennessee Titans and looking to go somewhere else because he is not getting paid what he wants. And also Kyla Murray, who has decided not to play under a new contract. So thank you very much, Stolonize, for letting me know you couldn't hear. And if anyone has any comments or wants to share what we're thinking about, or share your thoughts, drop it down in the comments and I'll shout you out and talk about what you think as well. Thank you so much for whoever liked it so far. And yeah, let's get into it. So, Deebo Samuel. Why does Deebo Samuel want to leave? And I think that he wants to leave basically because he's not being played quite in the way that he wants to, and also he's not getting paid what he wants to either. So we've got, I think I would offer this guy probably like $25 million a year based on what so far the other wide receivers have gotten. So far, Devontae Adams is getting paid $28 million a year roughly, and Tyreek Hill $30. Tyreek Hill is the highest paid player, and I think Deebo Samuel actually garners around 25, maybe a little bit less, 22 to 25, because he's being played not only as a wide receiver but also as a running back. And that's kind of what he's talking about. He wants to play, well, mostly as a wide receiver because, well, running backs don't have as much of a career. Their careers last a lot shorter than wide receivers in general. And also, he wants to be paid as though he is a running back and a wide receiver if he is going to be played in those two positions. So I don't think he should be paid double, as in like get paid as a running back and wide receiver both combined, but more. But I mean, he had 28% of the 49ers yards from scrimmage last year, and I think he does deserve quite a lot of money for just the amount of productivity that he had. I mean, it's fourth in the NFL behind Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, and Najee Harris. So he really does deserve a big payday. And I know he's very young as well, but it's about time. It's about time he got a new deal. So if he's not going to get one from the 49ers, then fair enough. Fair enough requesting a trade. I think that in terms of fits, I think that the Jets would be a really good option. Of course, Robert Saleh was at the 49ers a year ago, and that's when he signed for the Jets as a head coach. But before that, a defensive coordinator, so there must be a little bit of love. I know they're different sides of the ball, but they must have communicated at some point. I also think the Packers are in desperate need of a game-changing wide receiver. Now that Devontae Adams has gone, yeah, I'm really sure that the Packers need someone. And if they're not going to draft someone, then they need to get someone in a trade. Maybe it's AJ Brown. Maybe AJ Brown fits the Packers mold a little bit more. But the Cowboys are a really good option as well because, I mean, the Cowboys, now that Amari Cooper's gone, maybe having a different receiver to CeeDee Lamb would be a really good idea to make opposing defenses have to think a little bit more. I personally would love Deebo Samuel at the Saints. If it just takes a first rounder, using one of the 2 first-round picks is a really good option for Deebo Samuel because I'm pretty sure we're going to use one of them on a wide receiver anyway. This guy is young. We have a really creative offensive mind, and our offensive coordinator has worked under Sean Payton for a long time. And I think that he's going to have a lot of success at the Saints, and he's going to be utilized in so many different ways in that offense. And I think that will be awesome. There are other teams. I think Buccaneers are an option because, well, the Buccaneers, they might need a little bit extra now that Antonio Brown's gone and Chris Godwin has signed still, but maybe they just need an extra element to their offense. The Falcons, they don't have many weapons. I can't imagine Deebo Samuel will want to go there, but, you know, it is what it is. Eagles, Steelers, and Patriots are other options, but I think if there was one other team I would throw out there, it would be the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, they lost Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill is quite different to Deebo Samuel because Deebo Samuel gets the ball in the backfield. Tyreek Hill gets the ball more out wide in space where he can make a difference. But I think if Deebo Samuel is going to be able to replace Tyreek Hill, it might be quite a good replacement because, of course, they are very similar. I think it's pretty big in the NFL, though, for this kind of player to be demanding a trade after such a successful season, and what seems to be he's not getting what he wants from the team that have needed him so much last year. He was so huge for them in the playoffs, especially, let alone the whole of the regular season. So we're going to move on to AJ Brown now. So I think this is a really interesting one if you ask me, because AJ Brown is loved by the Tennessee Titans. He's such a big player in the locker room. He's such a big player, in Tennessee. He's so vital to the offense. I mean, Ryan Tannehill looks to him all the time. I mean, he's not quite as vital as Derrick Henry, but that passing game is nothing without AJ Brown. Julio Jones, maybe the best receiver of the last decade, couldn't get it done with Ryan Tannehill, but AJ Brown has. And I've got to say, I really think it's a mistake if they let AJ Brown go, because wherever this guy goes, it is going to be an amazing fit. I'm so convinced of it. Whilst he hasn't demanded a trade as of yet, and this is definitely reconcilable if the Titans offer a little bit more, but it looks like the Titans aren't going to offer more than $20 million to him. Deebo Samuel, a close friend of AJ Brown, I think he just leaked it a little bit by mistake. But you know what? 20 million isn't quite enough for a guy like AJ Brown. AJ Brown is so successful and so dominant. And yeah, again, similar to Deebo Samuel, I think he deserves up to possibly $25 million a year as well. I mean, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyreek Hill, those guys are all like upper echelon. But then AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, they're right behind, and they haven't done it in the NFL for as long as those other guys. So I think there might be, that's why there's a little bit of a tier difference. But these two, Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown, they are some of the stars of the NFL in the weapons department. So I really do think that if the Titans are able to offer more than 20 million, they should definitely do it. Because that offense is going to be dreadful without him. Because if AJ Brown isn't on the field for the Titans, it means that basically the passing game has nothing. And defenses can basically sell out to stop Derrick Henry in the run. And as good as Derrick Henry is, the defenses will be able to stop him just because they know that they're going to run the ball. And, with no Julio Jones and potentially no AJ Brown, the Titans are going to be terrible. So I think now we'll move on to Kyla Murray. So this is one that's kind of been playing out for the last couple of months now. And since the end of the NFL season, there's been a lot of talk of him basically not wanting to play for the Cardinals anymore, which is totally understandable when you consider that he is one of the best quarterbacks, in the NFL, and he's such a difference maker on his day. The first half of each of his seasons, he is an MVP candidate. I know that in the second half of the season and in the playoffs when the Cardinals get there, he hasn't been very good. But maybe that's because of injuries, and he is a little small and frail, and that small stature could cause some problems when you're, being hit by guys that are like 6'5", 300 pounds. And so I can understand why the Cardinals haven't offered him a massive contract as of yet, but he's still an elite quarterback, and he will get better in the second half of the season and the playoffs, especially if he learns to slide a little bit more. Well, he's good at sliding because he's a baseball player as well. But if he's able to just try and avoid the hits a little bit more, and if the Cardinals are able to protect him, I don't see why that he won't be successful beyond Thanksgiving every single season. And I think it's about time that he gets a new contract, to be honest, because Cliff Kingsbury and the GM, his name slips my mind at the moment, both got new contracts in this offseason. And the three of them are all kind of tied to the hip, considering Cliff Kingsbury and Kyla Murray. They kind of came into the Cardinals in the same year, and Kyla is Cliff Kingsbury's guy. So I really think that his contract is going to happen at some point soon. It's just a matter of time. In terms of him not wanting to play until he gets a new contract, I think that is kind of fair enough when you consider that he is an elite quarterback. It is maybe some of his teammates and some of the front office are kind of a bit disappointed in that because he's meant to be the quarterback. He's meant to be the leader. And Colin Cowherd said the other day that Tom Brady, he would just take a little bit less money and keep playing for the team and be more team focused. And that's kind of why they brought in leaders in the offseason last year, like JJ Watt and to try and AJ Green as well, to try and show a little bit more leadership and experience in the locker room, because Kyla Murray doesn't really offer that all the time. And whilst I think that is a bit of a problem from the quarterback, you can get that from other players like JJ Watt and AJ Green. And the contributions from the two of them, even though they're kind of old and past their best, it was still quite big and definitely value signings if you look at it that way. And the Cardinals got so much better last year. They went 8-0 in the first 8 games of the year. I know they didn't have a great second half of the season, but they can work on that and get better, and they have done. They have gotten better every single year since Kyla has joined them. And I don't know, maybe Kyla's right to hold out considering all of that. So yeah, I haven't got anything to say about that anymore because I'm kind of on Kyla's side, I guess. So now we'll move on to the NFL draft and kind of talk about some of the rumors that we've been hearing so far in the day. So the Jaguars, actually, I've heard a bit of news that they're thinking about trading their pick from the number 1 spot. And I think that's actually not a bad option because they have their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and they kind of just need a little bit more depth, and they need quantity of good players rather than just one single guy to make the difference. And I don't know, maybe the best way of doing that then is to trade back in the draft. Maybe Aiden Hutchinson's really worth it, and it's not only that he's really worth it in terms of his ability, but also his mentality, his work ethic, his leadership, which he showed in abundance at Michigan. And I think that if he joins the Jaguars, he's going to be a real asset in the locker room and on the field. And I think that it's going to go really swimmingly for the Jaguars if they draft Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. But if they trade back, for example, to 10, they could get good 2 or 3 first-round picks from that. And maybe if it's not this year specifically, maybe it's in the next year and the next year after that. And it's that quantity of first-rounders that will really add to the team and make the Jaguars better. Of course, we do have the Jaguars Journey Madden Career Mode. We stream most Sundays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. UK time or 7:30. So if you want to see what I do with the Jacksonville Jaguars, tune in then. I also post on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Wall of NFL on all 3. If you're ever wanting to see the stream, you can check out that too. The Saints are the other big talking point at the moment because, of course, they have traded with the Eagles to get their first round pick. And I think that with those 2 first-round picks, they have 3 options. They can draft 2 really top players and have probably a wide receiver and an offensive lineman, or maybe a quarterback. So those are the 3 positions they need: offensive line, wide receiver, and quarterback. They can either fill 2 of those positions with these 2 draft picks. They can trade up to get one guy that they're really looking to get, which I can't imagine that them trading up for anything but a quarterback. Probably Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, or Matt Corral. So those are 3 options at quarterback. If they trade up in the draft to maybe with the Giants or Jets or some other team similar, I don't think the Panthers will trade with them, seeing as they are division rivals. But those are the potential options there. And I think that I don't know if I love the quarterbacks in this draft. They're not being spoken about anywhere near as highly as the quarterbacks in the previous draft. In the previous draft, there was Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance. I'm missing someone in between. Justin Fields and Mac Jones. They were all really good quarterbacks. But this year, there's not a whole lot of talk about how good Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis is. Kenny Pickett, he hasn't got a very high ceiling, but he's fairly NFL ready. Malik Willis, he is very mature. He acts like a starting quarterback, but he needs a couple of years to settle in, is what I'm hearing. I haven't really watched any of their games, to be honest. So if the Saints draft them, I will definitely be watching those. But to go back to the Saints options, it's a quarterback early on. A quarterback and wide receiver would be my guess at 16 and 18, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Or then trading back in the draft and trying to get maybe 3 or 4 players in this draft, which will really boost the Saints' potential in team potential in the 2022 season. I don't imagine they will trade back in the draft from here with those 2 picks, because it looks to me like they're either gaining a lot of ammunition to trade up in the draft, or the other way around is pick 2 big players. And if they were picking 2 big players mid-round, I would have thought the trade would come on the night of the draft, so that they can make sure that the guys that they want are still there, rather than months in advance, like the 49ers did last year, trading up to the 3rd spot to draft their quarterback. So I think that they'll probably stick where they are, but my other thought is that they would trade up for a quarterback. But I can't see 2 trades happening with those picks. So I think wide receiver, quarterback, or if not a quarterback, an offensive lineman. I think a wide receiver is pretty much certain at this point that Saints will draft them. I think I waffled a little bit during that, but I think the other options for quarterbacks in the top 10, probably going to be Panthers, because they're at 6th. Despite the fact that Ben McAdoo said that Sam Darnold was going to be their starting quarterback, he said it by accident this week, which I thought is hilarious, because I feel like that's so Ben McAdoo after his atrocious showing at the Giants a couple of years ago, and now completely slipping up and saying that Sam Darnold was going to be their guy this week. I thought that was so funny. And now talking about whether they draft a quarterback or not, I'm not really sure what the Panthers are going to do, but I think that they might draft, for example, Malik Willis. Malik Willis has a really high ceiling, and if any guy in this draft is going to be an elite quarterback, it's probably going to be Malik Willis. He has tremendous arm strength and athletic ability, and all the best elite quarterbacks pretty much have that in abundance this now in the NFL. I know there's still Tom Brady, who's an elite quarterback, and he is not, I don't even know if I'd call him an athlete. I know he is because he's at the top of his game, but he moves. I mean, he's not fast at all. Not great with he's good with his feet in small movements, but you don't see him scramble very often. But aside from Tom Brady, most guys, I'm just trying to rack my brain quickly, but most guys are athletes and can run for that first down when they need to. And that's kind of what elite quarterbacks do, make those decisions and make sure that they can get those extra few yards when they need to. And Malik Willis may be quite similar to Trey Lance in the fact that maybe if he does play a few snaps in this first year or in the next year, will use his legs quite a bit to try and move the ball down the field a little bit and not just rely on his arm, which might need a little bit of work. And so I think that from this point here, we're going to be moving into our mock drafts. So I thought it would be a really good idea to have a look at some mock drafts that some other people had done. And from the perspective of someone who has not watched any college football, I wanted to see what we think. Maybe focus not on what players are being picked at the positions, but more what positions are being filled by the teams that are potentially going to be drafting. So as we go into that, I'll just excuse me for 1 second. Sorry about that. My voice is a little bit lost because earlier today I went to the Arsenal versus Man United soccer match. So it's a little bit hoarse, but hopefully tomorrow when I stream Madden and the Jaguars journey, it'll be back up and running. I seem to always get a bit excited at Arsenal matches. So let's start off with the 2 biggest mock drafting guys. Mel Kiper and Todd McShay did a joint 3-round NFL mock draft. We won't go through all of the 9 rounds, but we'll focus on some of the guys and some of the positions that are being filled by the teams that are drafting. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're drafting Aiden Hutchinson. I spoke about this a little bit earlier, so I won't go into too much detail. But if Aiden Hutchinson joins, he's going to be really, really good. Mostly for the locker room, I would say, because it's not like, I mean, he's a tremendous talent and got incredible ability, but also he's a really, really good leader. And I've got to say that is what the Jacksonville Jaguars need at the moment. They've got some pretty good defensive pieces, but they really, and adding Aiden Hutchinson to that will be really big. But they just need those calm, collected, and clever heads in the locker room. And that is what Aiden Hutchinson will be. So Detroit Lions, it's very tricky where they'll go with this, but Trayvon Walker is their guy for Mel Kiper and Tom McShay. And there's a lot of talk about whether Trayvon Walker and Kayvon Thibodeau would be the two guys, which one would go before the other. Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to be number one, whatever happens, unless the Jaguars go with an offensive tackle, which might not be a bad idea. Francis Ferguson, hi, how are you doing? Just going through some mock drafts and some news and seeing what we think. So yes, back to the mock drafts. I think that if the Detroit Lions draft a defensive end that is hardworking and just a strong player, I think that Dan Campbell and the Lions are really going to need that. They are very similar to the Jaguars in that they need some strong heads in the mix. Houston Texans, they just need talent. Anyone. They just need the best player at any position. They stink. And I don't know. They just need someone. I don't know how to put it into words. They need the best player available. So if that's Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end, then that's what they should go with. They have a big hole with J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney not being there. So maybe a good option with Kayvon Thibodeau. New York Jets selecting Ahmad Gardner, corner. So the Jets, they need anyone at any position as well. I would argue offensive tackle's probably the best position for them. And the Giants have gone with Ikem Ekwonu in pick 5. But maybe the Jets, I mean, yes, they need good defense, but their secondary isn't quite the worst position group on their team, I think. I don't know if I think I would probably go offensive tackle. But the offensive tackle goes to the New York Giants. And the New York Giants, I can't remember how bad their offensive line was, but I remember it being pretty bad. Let me just have a look. I can't find out how that... Sorry, I don't know how well it ranked, but I know that it wasn't very good. I listened to Colin Cowherd, and he has frequently talked about how bad the Giants' offensive line is. The Carolina Panthers, and there you go, there's the first quarterback. Like I said, Malik Willis going off the board first and foremost. That's the guy that I would go with because the ceiling's higher, and you want an elite quarterback. You don't want a guy that's just gonna come in and just have a low ceiling, because you need an elite quarterback to win in the NFL. And there's 12 guys that can do it, and you can see there's a really big difference between those top 12 guys and all of the rest. Unless you've got one of those 12 guys, you're looking for a new quarterback. The New York Giants get their second pick, a defensive end. So they're going heavy on the linemen, and I think that's a good plan, because that is where all the best teams are built, which is fair enough. I think, if you dominate the defensive line and the offensive line when you have the ball or when you don't have the ball, as long as you dominate those lines, that is how you win games, and that is the way the Giants are going. Last year, they just went wide receivers, tight ends, and just tried to get weapons for Daniel Jones, and it didn't work out. Atlanta Falcons, Garrett Wilson. I don't know if he's the best wide receiver. I know there's a big wide receiver class this year, but, a wide receiver could really be useful. Now that it looks like Calvin Ridley might not be around again this year. He's got some work to do on himself, I think. So Evan Neal, I remember, he was potentially... People were putting him as their number one guy in their mock drafts in the early on in the offseason. And, his stock might have dropped a little bit, but the Seahawks going offensive tackle, I don't know. Their offensive line is pretty bad, and Russell Wilson always complained. So wouldn't that be hilarious if the Seahawks go offensive line now that Russell Wilson has left? Imagine if they draft an offensive lineman, their offense is decent aside from a quarterback, and the Broncos stink. That would be hilarious for Russell Wilson. I mean, I love Russell Wilson, so I actually hope he does well. But what a turn of events that would be. New York Jets, second pick. I've mixed it up twice now already. Drake London, big up the UK, London. And yeah, Zach Wilson needs weapons. He can't just throw to, I can't even remember who it was. Corey Davis, that's who it was. Ex-Titans wide receiver. He needs someone else to throw to. So New York Jets, first pick, they go with a corner, Ahmad Gardner. And with their 10th one, Drake London. So Washington Commanders, I think this might be a quarterback, to be quite honest with you, because surely Carson Wentz isn't going to be that guy forever. But instead they go with Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. And there's a lot of talk of him being one of the best players in the draft. And I think, if he is, the Washington Commanders will get a big steal with him, because I think in the draft you want to get big value and the best players available. And it's the free agency where you should probably try and paper over the needs. So Derek Stingley, heard good things as well. Back-to-back injury-plagued seasons, I'm reading. So maybe that is so Vikings. Get a guy and it gets injured. I don't think it'll happen. If I was supporting a college team, it would be LSU. So I hope that Derek Stingley does well. There's a lot of LSU players with Justin Jefferson at the Vikings as well. They'll be going up against each other in practice if this happens. And Houston Texans second pick from the Browns, Charles Cross, offensive tackle. Again, Texans, like the Giants, going lineman. I think that's a good way to go if you're going to be rebuilding your franchise. And the Ravens go for a corner. Their secondary really struggled last year, so good pick, I think. Philadelphia Eagles from Miami, Jameson Williams, wide receiver. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Jameson Williams, and tore his ACL last year. That's a bit of a risky pick potentially then, but if it works out well, and apparently good wide receiver, so I think that getting Jalen Hurts some weapons along with Devontae Smith, that's gonna really help that passing attack. So now we're getting to the big talked about Saints and Trevor Penning, offensive tackle. So, like what I think Mel Kiper might be right here. I think it's either quarterback, wide receiver, or offensive tackle. And getting that offensive line sorted is really important, especially maybe if we use that other pick to get a wide receiver. So as long as we get a wide receiver, I'm happy. Noam, welcome back to the stream. Make a mock draft. Honestly, mate, I know nothing about mock drafts. I'm just going through this because it's mock draft. It's a draft week, and I want to see what teams are going to fill what needs potentially. And the Chargers defensive tackle. Wow, their defense was bad last year. That would be a real help, Jordan Davis. So the Philadelphia Eagles is their second pick. Was there a trade or something? I must have not looked properly at all of the potential options. So, Daxton Hill, safety or corner from Michigan. Eagles, man, if they do get these players, fixing up their defense a little bit, and getting a wide receiver for Jalen Hurts, I think fantastic option. The New Orleans Saints go for Chris Olave, and I think that is brilliant. Offensive tackle and wide receiver is exactly what we need. I actually think Jameis Winston is the best guy to stick with. So I think that this is a really good pick because it supports him with the offensive line and with wide receiver as well. And if we're not using one of these picks for Deebo Samuel, which I would probably prefer actually if we went for Deebo Samuel, then I think this is a great option. Kenny Pickett to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is a good pick for the Steelers because they actually have a pretty good team. And if they're able to sort out that quarterback position, get a young guy with Kenny Pickett, I think that having him and Najee Harris and could actually be really good. And even if Mitch Trubisky does play this season, I think that, next season with Kenny Pickett potentially getting a year to sit, work out how to play properly in the NFL could be really good. And I don't know if he'll ever reach that elite quarterback status, but I don't know, maybe he will. So let's move on to the New England Patriots. And they get Nakobe Dean, inside a linebacker for Georgia. Georgia's defense was crazy good last year. And I think that the Patriots solidifying that defense is a great option. But, man, they need a wide receiver. And if they're not trading for Deebo Samuel or A.J. Brown or someone, maybe this isn't the right pick to go for, because their wide receiver needs are very high. Am I right, guys? The Green Bay Packers wide receiver, exactly what they need. Davante Adams was a game-changing wide receiver, and without him, man, they might really struggle. And Aaron Rodgers, he does not trust anyone except Aaron Jones and Davante Adams last year. So if he goes into this year having only Aaron Jones to throw to, he's a running back. Come on. He's got to have a wide receiver that he trusts, and maybe Christian Watson can be that guy. So Treylon Burks, apparently according to Todd McShay, is going to go to the Cardinals. And with AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know if this is the right pick. Maybe they should go maybe an offensive lineman to protect Kyla Murray, and or maybe someone on the defense, maybe to go in at corner, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know if wide receiver is the most important. Thank you, Braylon Adams, for joining us. I don't know enough about the draft picks to make a mock draft myself, unfortunately. Very sorry. I would do it, but maybe I'll get a friend to do it because they know more than me about the draft. I just know what each team needs, and basically that's what I'm going through, whether they'd be good picks or not. So Arnold Ebiketie, probably said his name wrong. The Dallas Cowboys, they were really good at getting takeaways last year, but man, they need a little bit of help on defense still. They still gave up a lot of yards, and their defense was probably what undid them last year. Well, and the fact that Dak Prescott couldn't quite hit his receivers against the 49ers. The Buffalo Bills are an absolutely stacked team, so if they don't go for the best player available, I think that this is going to be a mistake, whatever the pick. And if Andrew Booth Jr. is the highest rated and best player at so far left on the board, this is going to be the guy. This is going to be a good pick if he's the best guy available, because the Bills have such a stacked team anyway. They just need to. If they just keep solidifying that team, making it stronger and stronger, and drafting the best guys possible, they will have a team that's going to be good for a long time. And the Tennessee Titans getting a guard or center, Zion, definitely Zion Johnson. Yeah, their offensive line probably needs a little bit of help. I mean, Derrick Henry, he gets hit quite early, but he just does not go down. So I think a little bit of protection for Ryan Tannehill might be good. Although getting a wide receiver might be even better, because if you think about it, A.J. Brown might be going. They don't have Julio Jones. Who else has Ryan Tannehill got to throw to? I've got to say, I don't know if that's going to go too well if they don't support Ryan Tannehill in the wide receiver category. And to be honest, Ryan Tannehill did not impress me last year. I thought he was really good going into the season, but very disappointing. Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle. Now that Ndamukong Suh's gone, yep, McShay knows it. With them losing Ndamukong Suh, they need to fill up that hole in the middle, because maybe the running game will suffer if they don't have that real big force right in the middle. I think that not having that force in the middle, they need that one, because whilst Vita Vea is brilliant, they do need to keep on stopping the run, because that's what they've been so good at the last few seasons. And if they continue to be able to do that, they're gonna find success again this year. So if they don't trade away their pick for example, I know I keep saying it, Deebo Samuel, this would be a good one, and I think that does fit that need well. Packers' second pick, defensive end, George Karlaftis. Yep, they know it. Kuiper says it. Zadarius Smith left, and that is a big, big miss for them. So if they're able to have half as much production with George, they'll have a good. They'll be able to fit that need a lot better. Thank you guys so much for the 3 likes, and for those of you that are watching at the moment. If you want to see all the other news that I started with, head back to the start of the video. And the Kansas City Chiefs, Dotson, they're going with the wide receiver from Penn State. Man, if they think this guy is going to replace Tyreek Hill, they've got another thing coming. I don't think that any wide receiver can replace Hill's productivity, But if anyone's going to be able to do it, it will be, oh my gosh, head coach. Completely slipped my mind. This kind of thing always happens when streaming. Andy Reid. Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? How did I forget? But Andy Reid is going to be able to get Jahan Dotson. If he's going to be successful, yeah, Andy Reid's going to be the guy to make that happen. And also Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes hasn't really trusted other wide receivers and weapons other than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. But they have such great creativity at head coach. It will be a really good way of because they don't have, sorry, let me start again. Patrick Mahomes relies quite heavily on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. So now that Tyreek Hill is gone, they will need someone else to fill those shoes. And clearly, everybody knows it, but Todd McShay thinks that Jahan Dotson is going to be the guy. Maybe he is. Francis Ferguson, Kansas City even traded Tyreek Hill. He was the best wide receiver on the team. That's what I'm saying. I don't know whether it was because Tyreek Hill was so good, or Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes made Tyreek Hill so good. I think it was probably a bit of both. But Dotson's going to find it really difficult to fill those shoes. And they have a lot of other average receivers. They do have Juju Smith-Schuster, but I think he's a second or third receiver, and they need a true number one, and Dotson's got to be the guy if they're not going to get in anyone else. Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown might be available, and they have got 2 first-round picks, so maybe they can go after one of those guys. David Ojabo, outside linebacker. I think with the parting ways of Tyrann Mathieu, I think they do need a little bit of help on defense, and I don't know if outside linebacker is really the place, but they have got Chris Jones, and do they still have Floyd or D Ford? Maybe. If they don't, this could be a good pick, but Tyrann Mathieu was big for them, so maybe they should have gone somewhere in the secondary. And we're going to our last 2 picks now. We've got Devin Lloyd, inside linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that's a good pick. They do have... I thought they had Anzalone. He's at the Lions. But inside linebacker is a really good pick, I think. If they're not going offensive line for the Bengals, I know they solidified in free agency really well. But I think that if they're not going offensive line, defense is really big for them because they were so solid defensively. But maybe they need a little bit more help to be elite. And I think that's what will help them get back to the playoffs because people are going to figure out their offense because that's what happens. Anything hot on offense, like Jamar Chase was last year and Joe Mixon, that gets figured out. So I think that they've got to come up with something different, and relying on their defense might be really important, especially inside linebacker Devin Lloyd. And we'll go, I know that we can see the 33rd pick there, but we will stop here with the Detroit Lions drafting Desmond Ridder, a quarterback. And it actually might not be a bad pick because I think the Lions aren't going to stay with Goff for a very long time. I think he's not the guy for the future. So maybe that Desmond Ridder's a good guy, a good pick, but I don't think he'll be playing this year. Goff is actually a decent quarterback. He isn't elite. He's probably about 16th to 20th best in the NFL. That's not great, but it's not replaceable as of just yet. If you're not going to get someone like Malik Willis early on in the draft that potentially could replace him, but even if they did get Malik Willis, it would take some time. We're going to quickly sift over some of the other mock drafts that I brought up. I won't go through them in as much detail. It's going to looking very similar. So Aiden Hutchinson, the 3 defensive ends going first, Sauce Gardner going fourth. It is actually very similar. Aside from Malik Willis has not gone a number 6, and Tom McShay and Mel Kiper had them going 6th. Jermaine Johnson. Let's go down and see what the Saints do. You can pause it if you need to, if you want to have a little bit more of a look. But I think those Saints picks are big. So this is an interesting one. I think there's been a mistake. The Eagles have 3 picks and the Saints only have 1. So this might be an old one. I should have probably checked a little bit better. March 22nd. So that would be before the Saints trade. Either way, we'll get rid of that one, and we'll go back to Jamie Eisner. Sorry, I should have had a better look at that one. Jamie Eisner, we'll go back to his what he thinks. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau are their top two edge. The edge guys go early. Number 3, Texans get their offensive tackle sorted. Good pick, I think, to be honest. I think that they need a lot of help on the both line, and that's how you build a team. You go offensive, defensive lines. That's how you build a team. And the Texans look like they know it. Lovie Smith he's got a long journey to go. Ahmad Gardner, looks like pretty much everyone thinks the Jets are going to go there. So maybe I was wrong when I thought that maybe they should go offensive tackle, because Evan Neal, very popular one for the Giants, or Akwonu, that's a very popular. So it looks like the Giants are going to go offensive tackle is what everyone thinks. Kenny Pickett going 6th. So, they thought Malik Willis would go to the Carolina Panthers. This guy thinks Kenny Pickett. A toss-up. Depends whether you want the more NFL-ready guy or the potential elite talent with a high ceiling, but potential bust there as well. So it depends what you think with that. So Trayvon Walker, the edge guy, drops all the way down to 7. Garrett Wilson, very popular pick to the Falcons. They desperately need some offensive help. And Marcus Mariota, he's not great, but if he's going to succeed, and he can succeed, they're going to have to get some offensive weapons, especially with Calvin Ridley gone. Charles Cross, Jermaine Johnson, everyone filling their needs quite well. Derek Stingley, again, going to the Vikings. Drake London, wide receiver for the Texans. Maybe wide receiver is not exactly what they need, but, maybe they know better than I do. The Saints, Malik Willis, that's an interesting one. That's one of the things I wanted to look for. Who had the Saints drafting a quarterback? I think it's pretty much, and there we go, Chris Olave. So the Saints, big talking point, they're going to be a quarterback, wide receiver, offensive lineman. Those are the options. I think those are the ways the Saints are really going to go. Desmond Ridder going. So not a lot of Matt Corral. Haven't seen him going in anyone's mock draft early. Maybe his stock must have plummeted without me really knowing. So I guess that's pretty much it. I'll just scroll down so that you guys can see the rest. But I think we've pretty much got the idea of who is going where, which team needs who. Jahan Dotson. I keep messing up all the names. I tell you what, when you're not streaming, you judge everyone's the way they pronounce it. You go, oh, how'd you pronounce that wrong? But when the camera turns on, you can't pronounce anyone's name right. That's just how it is. Try it out for yourselves. I think Bengals definitely need some help defensively, whether that be safety or inside linebacker. And there you go. So that is pretty much what we have going. I'm so excited for the draft. I'm pretty sure we will have. A big drafting stream, so I might stay up super late at night, all the way up till 4 in the morning, talking to you about picks and live streaming kind of what might happen on Thursday night. So I'll post about that on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and maybe talk about that tomorrow night when I'm streaming Madden. Do come along again, 7 or 7:30 p.m. For the Jaguars journey, the continuation of our franchise mode with the Jaguars. So that's going to be all from me today. It was a bit of a long one talking about the mock drafts, but if you want to go back and talk about and listen to what I think about Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, and Kyla Murray, and some of the bigger draft talking beats, do go back to the start of the video before the mock draft happened. And I hope you have a fantastic evening. Join me tomorrow, 7:30. Keep an eye on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, Wall of NFL, to see what might be going on there, and when I'll be starting the stream. So keep an eye on that, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.